So, to start off, I want to talk a little bit about the goals of Bloom. And I really hope to make everyone's life better by delivering successful crypto projects. That's something that um, I have been pushing ever since I started into crypto and started getting involved in projects. It's that one of the benefits of crypto is that A, it doesn't discriminate, and B, it provides access for people around the world, doesn't matter who they are, as long as they have a phone, even they can invest in crypto. And you would be surprised at how much even small gains in crypto can change somebody's lives. So, if you're involved with coins, you'll eventually start to hear things about stories about how you've changed people's lives and how much benefit you've brought just because somebody has a little bit more money now. So it's really when we look at crypto, it's all about bringing this to the have-nots, and it that's where I think the biggest difference between traditional finance and decentralized finance is. It's that we can really help a lot of people. So we should always keep in mind that what we're going to do as a team on Bloom is we're going to change a lot of people's lives. And when I say team, this includes the community, this includes you. So, keep in mind here, it's that let's try not to be selfish and let's try to think about, okay, how can we grow Bloom to help everybody around the world? Because this is something that we want to give access to everybody and we want to help everybody. And if we keep that in the back of our minds, and while we're doing everything, just remind ourselves that this is about helping other people, that's how we're going to be very successful overall. Um, our slogan, I guess, or our statement, or our mission statement is to build the future of fund management while delivering an ethical and progressive passive income strategy to all holders. The idea of passive income gets chucked around quite a bit in crypto, and people think that passive income should be thousands and thousands of dollars a month. um, that would be great, but when you're looking at comparing what traditional finance labels passive income, we're talking about a small percentage per month. So our goal is to significantly beat what traditional finance thinks is passive income, but also not create a reward situation where it's just unsustainable and it's high risk. So when we're saying we're going to deliver ethical and progressive passive income to all holders, we really mean that this is going to be sustainable, it's going to be stable, and it's going to be something that you can count on. So that's our overall mission statement is build the future of fund management while delivering an ethical and progressive passive income strategy to all holders. What do we mean about the future of fund management? When you look at traditional finance today, the way that the funds are being managed, it's a surprisingly even a paper-heavy process where they have hundreds of employees working for them, if not thousands, just to manage some simple um, mutual type funds or index funds or something along those lines. And what we see down the future, it's that um, it's going to be a combination of crypto funds and traditional finance that's really going to make up the funds in the future. And what we're trying to do is establish some either best practices or solutions or products that can really help form and be the future of fund management. So that's one of our goals as well. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that where our motivation is coming from. It seems that there's many similar projects these days diluting the market. If you think about nodes or you think about ohm forks, the rebase type tokens, or even reflection type tokens where you have SHIB or SafeMoon or those types of projects. There's a lot of these projects which come out, and what they tend to do is copy each other. So one of the things that we're not doing is we're not going to be forking any other code. We're coding everything from scratch. One of the other things that we believe is that crypto projects seem to lose their shiny buttons and that shiny button feel after a few months. And we're really running this token with the focus of years of operation, many, many years of operation. So we're building small, we're starting slow, but our goal is really years of operation. And we're putting in planning structure so we don't lose that shiny button feel quickly, that people will see what we're doing, see it as a mature approach, seeing it as a trustworthy approach, and it will be something that the community themselves could be proud about. And I'll, as we get into this token, as we get into this project, we'll talk about how eventually this is going to be a community-led solution, a community-led project as well. One thing that we really want to do is make rewards sustainable. And this is something which is going to be tricky, but if we had the ability to present and show some slides, I could take you through how we can do that, but that's perhaps a great topic for another AMA for another day. Another thing that we think plagues the market right now, the crypto market, is these huge changes that we're seeing where people are going from V1 to V2 to V3 of their tokens, and they're sitting there with having to ask their users to do a bunch of things to migrate their tokens. And when we look at the growth of crypto, we just really believe that it's going to be, it's ridiculous to ask thousands of investors to log on and to do something by a certain date because of our, poor planning. So it's basically the constant large changes in crypto projects are difficult for anyone to follow. So what we want to do is be sure that we're building something, a foundation which is very strong. It makes sense. It's simple and can operate for many years into the future without having to create other versions or so forth. I'm going to go right into the AMA questions because we have a few of them. And these are questions that we've picked up off of the server. And I'll talk about the questions. What I'll do is I'll state the question and then we'll answer it. But then after this period where we're doing the pre-prepared questions, we'll open it up to the floor and see if there's more questions. So we have questions from Easy for Prez, and they are, can you speak more about the investment approach? And looking at what's the rough percentage breakdown of how you break up investment tranches or allocations? Can you say more about how you plan to merge traditional finance with decentralized finance? And the other question is plan or measures to combat token price whipsawing due to market volatility, whales, bots, etc. And there's a few questions here which we've grouped together. I'm going to review them all. There's another question from a user called IKA where they say, can you share any projects you plan on investing in? And will the projects be on-chain or off-chain? And questions from another user who you may know is Smiley Girl. She said she'd like to hear more about what the traditional investments will be, as well as what the crypto investments will be. I can certainly talk to this, but Sergeant Rock, if you put up your hand, I can give you the floor to speak. And I'm going to put you on the spot and kind of see if you'd like to answer these questions. Go ahead. We should be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to be here to chat with folks. Obviously, given the market conditions, both in the regulated finance world and also crypto, I've been doing a lot of research and analysis on what's happening, how, and if you watch me on Twitter and follow me and so on, there's a whole bunch of discussion around how crypto is operating, in its traditional sense as off risk or a counter or a hedge movement to some of the traditional stocks, to gold and so on. And one of the things that's fascinating these days is it appears that crypto is moving in an on risk scenario. So if tech stocks are viewed as risky, if things are being challenged, crypto it appears to be following that trend. And as we can see, are those folks that are following the markets with the high inflation, the uncertainty around geopolitical events and things like that. Stocks are being suppressed, and crypto, we're seeing crypto do the same. There's always buy opportunities in that scenario as well. So lots of things to consider. One of the things that we're going to spend some time with the seed launch, and as we develop our 30, 60, 90-day plans, I'm figuring out what are the asset allocations, what are the objectives, the goals for return on investment with the treasury or Bloom. And, that's a combination of, it's easy, crypto investing, right? On-chain investment. So whether that's Anchor Protocol, Curve, some of the stable farm yields that are pretty safe, although some of the recent exploits around Splassive and Bean and Elephant give us pause. Traditionally, what I would look from an asset mix is 60 to 70% safe returns, things that aren't going to knock your socks off, but you're going to maintain and preserve the capital and preserve the initial dollar amounts in the treasury. Give yourself about 15% medium risk and 15% degen plays in the market. So that would be grabbing things at launch, maybe finding some miners to invest in and so on. So I at this point, a lot of analysis, a lot of thought around it. I don't have specific plays or calls that I'm going to say, hey, I'm doing this and doing that, but just to give you folks a feel, that's kind of where I'm at, is figuring out, putting an anchor or a support within the treasury to make sure that the capital is preserved, figuring out the yield that's appropriate, ensuring it in certain circumstances. One of the things I have learned that may be of interest to people is there are third-party folks that will ensure, even in the face of an exploit or a rug, you could preserve that investment. So, if you got $50,000 invested into something, it rugs, you have insurance to protect yourself so that you don't lose it, much in the way of similar we see in regulated finance. Anyhow, so I'm chatting, I'm saying this sort of en masse, but I'll pause now, Patrick, just to get any feedback or thoughts.
That's perfect. And you alluded to the fact that right now we don't have anything concrete. We have ideas, but we're not necessarily at the point right now where we could communicate the ideas concretely and say, this is what we're doing. Now, one of the big differences that is going to happen with Bloom is we're going to have a separate governance process and a separate governance group to oversee what we call the Bloom Index. And the Bloom Index is the collection of all of our investments. And before we do that, however, what we need to do is to establish a grammar or a lexicon, I guess, that what's our language in terms of how we're going to talk about the index. So to do that, we first need to start and create categories. And from those categories, then what we can do is break down and choose exactly, okay, we're investing into this, we're investing in that. But it's also, how do we track and how do we lay out the metadata to know and to see how we're performing? So we've looked at quite a few other examples one of the best examples is actually something which is a fairly not well known protocol called the reverse protocol. And I found that they had a pretty good layout in terms of what they wanted to do. But this whole notion of, okay, Bloom leadership, what are you doing for the investments? That's going to change over time, and it's going to be a process where it really is community run, and it's democratically run. Now, we're going to be careful to not do this through a DAO per se, but what we're going to be doing is creating a governance process that has checks and balances, that has that ability to say, yeah, everybody's voted for this one particular choice, but for some reason or another, it doesn't actually make sense. So there's going to be the ability to veto or to change those results of the votes, just for protection, so we don't get things like what happened with Bean. If I'm not mistaken, that's the one where somebody used the flash loan to buy the majority control of the voting, and then voted to give himself a whole bunch of money. It was something along those lines. Now, but what we're trying to do is to create a new process for democratic voting within cryptocurrencies that's similar to how people would vote for a DAO in the past, but have it, unfortunately, it's going to have to be a little bit more complex. So when people say, why does the white paper take so long? Well, one of the things that we're going to be writing into there is that whole democratic process on, of establishing that index, and how do you move forward with it, and how do you get people to vote on it. So, and there's a lot of other reasons why the white paper is taking a while, but that's one of the parts that it takes some time to get that right. Sure, we can write a 1-paragraph vision for that, but we feel that we want to go a little bit more in depth. So I just want to circle this all back to say that the way that we're going to do this is that the Treasury in itself is going to be first being led by Sergeant Rock, and he's going to dictate, okay, you know what, with him and his team are going to create a certain investment strategy. And how that strategy is communicated and how easily it is for everybody else to understand what that investment strategy is really going to be the measure of whether we're successful so far or not. So it's really the community's feedback and understanding what the investment strategy is will make a big difference. So once we get that right, then what we can do is start to put a voting procedure in front of that. And that's where the governance and the whole democratic process is going to make a big difference. Brad, anything to add to that? Sergeant Rock, anything to add to that?
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point, Patrick, as far as, one of the things that we folks know that with the investments or learning, we want to bridge traditional finance, regulated finance investors to crypto and vice versa. And we would like to, attract sort of off-chain investors, folks that, are scared of crypto, or, oh, it's a Ponzi, it's a rug, all the things that your parents say and everything else. And so it is important to figure out what is important and, attractive to those investors, and having that common language is great. Obviously, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And I think a huge opportunity too is to bring some of the things that are, meat and potatoes that are basic in the regulated finance world. The ability to track things in crypto is super difficult because of the decentralized nature of the solution. And we really are we're really passionate to get away from, posting things in Discord only, pointing people back to a channel when someone says, well, what did you invest in and how is it performing? I mean, we've all been in those projects where someone bought something a month ago, a week ago, whatever, and then only, the team can only point to, hey, we did that then. And then everyone wants to say, well, okay, you put 50K into project ABC, what's the return since? Anyhow, so yeah, so they're 100%. Those are the things that I want to bring to the table, that make more sense to people, give people visibility, and comfort and awareness of how the Treasury is performing.
Great. Thanks, Sergeant Rock. Koki, I saw that you had a question. If you no longer have a question, that's cool. But I was going to give you. Oh, here we are. I'm inviting you to speak right now.
Yeah, sorry, my kid was crying, so
It's okay.
I type it later or something. But can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Loud
good.
and clear.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about when you said, okay, we want to close the gap between regular investors and crypto, and the real world and crypto, between the lines, of course. So I was thinking, are you also considering tokenized stocks or something similar?
Yes. There's some legal issues with tokenized stocks that as soon as you start to do that, you really can get attention from the U.S. authorities. And we've been thinking about, okay, what are the risks versus rewards of that? Because the U.S. is surprisingly not the only country in the world. Just say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's something that we're going to absolutely research, and it may be the approach that we would take right now with that is that we're going to create tokenized groups where you have a particular, let's say, energy stocks, that then we're going to create a token that represents a group of energy stocks, and then we're going to invest into that token. So it gives other people the ability to invest solely in that token as well. But what it doesn't do is overcomplicate Bloom in itself. So if we were to do that, it would be through a set of tokenized stocks that exist separately from Bloom.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking it's an interesting thing because it's not really been done before. I think there's one project in YCX, I think. I'm not sure. I invested in it a long time ago, like a half year ago. It's a long time in crypto. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Seems like ages. But some project is doing it. I can check which one it was again if you want. But
yeah, if you could check that and then post it, it would be nice. I know that there's been a couple. I don't remember the names, but I remember seeing them. But if you could figure out what that is, then
yeah, I can
post
figure it out.
I
No
would love
problem.
that.
I will check and let you know, man.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the question. It was great.
Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go to the next topic. So, Sergeant Rock, I'm going to move you back down to the audience just for clarity. So the next question is from Smiley Girl. It says, are the deeds crypto deeds and how will they work? Well, deeds are something that, I'm quite excited about. And I had some wonderful slides for this, but I'll just talk about them. A deed is really going to be a fixed rate return certificate. And the fixed rate is going to be set at the time of purchase. So imagine, if you will, that a deed is an NFT, which you can purchase, and the NFT will state, it doesn't matter that it states this is how we represent it in the system, but it's just, bear with me on this, go along on this. The NFT will state that, there is a monthly, quarterly, or annually claim amount that is a fixed amount. So, for example, you can buy what we're going to have. This is just an example. It may not be this number. I'm just using this as something that we've thought about. is that a Bloom deed you can buy for one of them is $16,000, but it has a $1,800 monthly claim amount, which means it has an eventual annual payout of $21,000. But the Bloom deed will exist forever. So yeah, you know what? The first year it's going to take a while for you to actually get your ROI, but after that, it's going to pay out huge. So where the important thing to understand with the deeds is that they're limited and they are high worth vehicles, investment vehicles. There's something that they can be traded. They are going to be able to be swapped as well. And one of the most important things is that deeds are going to be allow for fractional ownership from launch. So imagine that a group of people can buy a deed, and according to what percentage each person put in, you're going to get your fair share of the return. So, and deeds will be limited resources. Only certain rate deeds are going to be available at certain times as well. So this is something where what we have to do is carefully model. Can we pay off the amount of deeds that we're wanting to sell? And if we can, then we'll launch a certain amount of deeds, and that will allow us to have control of the deeds overall. Because the interesting thing is that you don't have to buy any Bloom to buy a deed, and your rewards are going to be paid out in a stable coin like USDC. They're not going to be paid out in Bloom. And the benefit of that is you don't have to sell Bloom to make your money. So you're not cannibalizing the price, which is something which is really important here. So you could see a deed as a larger node or a node that pays out in it pays out in a stable coin like USDC. So the point of the deed overall is you're really buying ownership into the token itself, and that any operating profits are going to be calculated after the deed is paid. So I'll get into, well, maybe not in this question period, but there's going to be an important distinction between operating profits, because that's how we're going to pay out the dividend rewards of Bloom, which we may not have got. We have not got to yet, but the important part is that the deeds are calculated as a operating cost. So hopefully that answered the question about what are deeds. Do we have questions about deeds? And we'll provide a better description of that on our website as we improve that site as well. Next question. It's from Easy4Perez as well. Are you keeping the BL seed sale open until the full Bloom launch, or will you shut it off at some point sooner? So the seed launch is going to be shut off, and we're going to migrate to Bloom, hopefully all within the same day or within a couple of hour period. So we will run it right up until the last moment that we're going to do the migration. So we're not going to shut it off and then wait a few weeks. We're just going to keep that open so people can do what they wish with it. But there is going to be a benefit paid to holders that are holding at the time of the migration. So we're planning some type of a percentage increase, hopefully, for the people who have been holding with us. The next question is from Jack NFT. It's that, will the percentage of holdings be the same upon migration to Bloom? The percentage of the holdings will actually change, but it may change for the better well, let me rephrase that. The percentage will change, but the value will most likely go up. And it's going to be, like I said, a small percentage increase of the value. But what people should be, really cognizant of is that it's the overall value which is important. The percentage is going to change because what we're going to be planning on doing is using some tokens or creating some other creating tokenomics which are going to support multiple chains. And that gets to Jack NFT's next question: is why the heck would you build on BSC rather than any other alternative? Solid question. So we chose BSC because one of the reasons is for the simplicity of the operation and the cost of doing the transactions on it while we're trying to get people onto the token, while we're trying to onboard people. It's probably one of the simpler to use chains. When you're looking at using MetaMask, it's something which can be configured rather easily. When we looked at the other choices, like Ethereum with the fork coming up, who knows what the gas prices are going to be, but we wanted to avoid expensive gas from the get-go, just because we're planning on getting a different type of investor into this, not somebody that's crypto aware. I personally prefer Avalanche. There's quite a few other alternatives out there, but in the future, we really want this to be a multi-chain product that we're going to be able to, whether you're using Phantom, Avalanche, the Ethereum Smart Chain, or BSC, it's really that you can choose how you want to interact with it. One of the benefits of multi-chain is that we can start creating a bridge, so you can swap the tokens, swap the Bloom tokens between chains if you wish. And that's another piece of technology which we want to put together as well. So we really started on BSC because of its simplicity. When we launch, there's most likely going to be a change on which chain we launch on, but that's not yet set in stone. We're not exactly 100% sure what we're going to do. Hopefully, when we launch Bloom, we can have the code ready to go multi-chain by that point. Question from Dr. Schwanz. Now, it's a really good question. The whole team is not doxing for security reasons. Can you explain what those reasons are? It's a problem in crypto, and it just doesn't make sense when you're handling millions of dollars of people's money. We could all see who is running public companies in the real world. Why is crypto different? So this question really looks back at, why are things different in the crypto world? And I'm not going to answer that in depth. However, when we're at the point where we're handling millions of dollars of people's money in the treasury, that's when the team will fully dox. But the team right now, the majority of the team is KYC'd through Coinscope. So if you're familiar with the KYC process, it basically means that there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of us from the team who have KYC'd with Coinscope, and I had planned to show you the certificate, but I'll put the link of the certificate into the chat, or if somebody could do that while I'm talking. Basically, the certificate from Coinscope shows that we have members KYC'd, and what the KYC process does is that if for some reason somebody does something that is unethical or criminal, then Coinscope will release our identities. So they have our identities, and they will be able to release our identities if we do anything unethical. So that's pretty much, pretty close to doxing. Now, why would the team not dox? I personally had here's an example. When I was working full time and I was also in crypto, I was working on a token that I guess somebody felt they didn't get the greatest return on it. Or I don't know what happened. Somebody felt it was necessary for them to call my employer and to tell them that I'm a crypto scam artist. And then my employer then notified me and then also notified the authorities. So I got investigated thanks to somebody who was saying that I was doing illegal cryptocurrency activity. Of course, I wasn't, so I got off. I was not charged with anything. There was no, nothing bad at the end result. But the problem is that it causes lots of issues in people's lives when that happens. So why the team is not doxing? It's for stuff like that. It's because people do stupid things. People do crazy stuff. And I chose to dox because somebody on the team needs to. So I'm taking that risk. So from Easy for Prez, or Ez for Prez, a big project just rugged hard, and I lost 100% of what I put into it. Would love to hear from the Bloom Core team on the AMA about security measures you'll be putting in place to avoid any stuff like that ever having the remotest chance of happening here. So, good question. First of all, we've KYC'd. So I've talked about that. The team's KYC'd. So if any, and the developer is also KYC'd. So if anybody does something illegal or very unethical, their identity can be instantly found through the CoinScope. Secondly, amongst the top 3 co-founders, we all know each other in person, and have known each other in person for years, many years, at least 6, 7, 8+ years. We've all known each other. So it's not that we're not a group of people who were formed on the web or formed from crypto communities. We were, and I chose this on purpose. I went out and I brought Sergeant Rock and De Niro onto the team, thinking, and Sergeant Rock and De Niro didn't know each other before we started the project. So first of all, is that one of the things we're doing differently is we actually know each other. We have met in person. We meet in person. And it's, we're certainly not strangers to each other. So we're doxed amongst ourselves. Our developer, we know, we have talked to on the phone many, many times. And he is also a 5-hour drive from us. And we've met him in person also. So there is this notion that, the overall team, we certainly have met each other in person, and there's trust building, or trust is built amongst the team itself. One thing, and I can send you the link to this as well, the liquidity tokens are in a multi-sig wallet. And they're a multi-sig wallet which needs at least 2 of us to approve a transaction. And there's only 3 people which have access to the multi-sig wallet, is De Niro, Sergeant Rock, and myself. And all of the liquidity tokens are in that multi-sig wallet. So for the project to rug, it would have to take at least 2 of us and the developer to it would take at least 2 of us to pull the liquidity tokens out of the multi-sig wallet, transfer it to the contract ownership wallet, and then have the contract owner rug the project. So we would need at least 3 people on this project to be involved with that. And that means that those people who I've talked about in the process, they are all KYC'd through CoinScope. So if we rug, you will know who we are, you can identify us, and you'll be able to press charges to us or call the authorities and have them press charges accordingly. So there's huge risk and issues to the people who rug this project. It would be absolutely stupid to do so. And yeah, the one thing I should say is that our Gnosis multi-sig wallet is also used to keep the Bloom tokens that have been vested, and also the operating budgets as well. So that's all of the questions that we've had from the server. And now, I'd be happy to open it up to the floor for if you guys have, further questions or require further clarity on the answers, or even if you want to say, hey, good job. So the way you do that is you can request to put your hand up and request to talk. If there are no questions, one of the things that I would like to say is thank you very much for attending. Really appreciate the time that you're putting into this. We have Ez for Prez as a question, and I'm going to bring you to invite to speak right now.
Yeah, hi Patrick and
Hi.
Sergeant Rock and De Niro and the team and investors. I just wanted to thank you for hosting the AMA, being so upfront with us, really being thorough with looking through all of our comments and questions, and really appreciating how thorough you are. So thank you, and I'm really glad to be part of it in the earliest days, and following along, and and being an active part of it all throughout. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. And your questions were well formed and helped us create, some good material for this chat for the AMA. Now, one of the things that I should mention is that how early we are in the process. That the seed launch has allowed us to now basically expose to the public what we are doing, what we want to do, but it also exposes the fact that we still have work to do. And you can imagine with a project of this size, a project of this vision, that what we're looking at is a considerable amount of work that we'll be launching this token in full force around late September, maybe early October. So the people that are here now, you're really early in this token, and we have not started creating hype around it, creating buzz. We haven't started a full onslaught in terms of our our social presence and so on, and our marketing and what we're doing. But we're building all of those. There's been, the team has grown from 3 people, I think, now to about almost 10. And we brought on some really impressive people that, are just doing things that I'm just so thankful for. So it's, we're early, and it looks like a really, really strong team. Good vision. So we're all really excited about this. With that said, it doesn't look like to be any more questions. And so I thank everybody for attending, and we're going to have many more AMAs in the future. So thank you for attending, and I hope you all learned something today from this AMA. And stay tuned for more. So thank you very much. We'll end the call now.